Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the mind of Naval Ravikant, an entrepreneur and thinker who offers a really different kind of roadmap, not just to getting wealthy, but to something way more valuable, real freedom.
So, Naval's whole philosophy kicks off with this central question that I think gets to the very heart of modern life. We have more of everything, more food, more entertainment, more information than any other generation in history. So why do so many of us still feel, well, unfulfilled?
And he calls this the modern paradox. You see, for pretty much all of human history, our big struggle was against scarcity. But today, it's the complete opposite. The very things that are supposed to give us pleasure and knowledge are literally engineered to get us hooked, creating what he calls diseases of abundance.
Okay, so to help us navigate this whole paradox, we're going to follow Naval's four-part journey. We'll start by really defining the problem. Then we'll unpack his two core skills, building wealth for external freedom and then cultivating happiness for internal freedom. And finally, we'll see how it all comes together in his vision for a life well lived.
All right, part one, the paradox of abundance. Let's dig into the modern struggle that pretty much all of us are facing.
The thing is, our brains evolved for a world of scarcity, but we're living in a world of engineered abundance. And Naval's big point here is that entire industries are designed to addict us, from the infinite scroll on social media to hyper-palatable junk food. We're in a fight that we are not biologically wired to win.
So what's the real casualty of all this constant stimulation? It's our ability to just be alone with our own thoughts. Naval brings up this quote from Pascal to highlight a critical loss. I mean, think about it. When was the last time you were actually, truly bored? Boredom is where our minds get to process, reflect, and find real clarity. But today, boredom is basically dead, and a big part of our peace has died right along with it.
Okay, so how do we actually fight back? Well, Naval argues the very first step is to master the skill of wealth, and this is our path to external freedom. Now, Naval makes this really critical distinction. You will not get free by renting out your time. A job tethers your income directly to your hours. It's a one-to-one trade. But real wealth? That comes from ownership, from assets like a piece of a business or code or media, things that can earn for you while you're sleeping. And he breaks this down into 3 key steps. First, you have to own equity in a business. Second, you build what he calls specific knowledge. Now, this is a unique skill set that you're passionate about, something that can't be easily automated or taught. Think about a niche creator who becomes the absolute go-to expert in their field. And third, you apply leverage, using things like code, media, or capital to amplify your efforts way beyond what you could ever do on your own. You can see how this just completely flips the old industrial age model of work on its head. Instead of grinding away 9 to 5 like a cow grazing in a field, Naval says we should work like a lion hunts, with these intense, focused sprints followed by periods of rest and reassessment. It's all about impact, not about the hours you put in.
And look, the goal of all this isn't just to pile up a bunch of money. It's to completely redefine retirement. He says it's not an age you reach, it's a state of being. It's that point where you no longer have to sacrifice your present for some imaginary future. It's the freedom to make today whole and complete in itself.
But, and this is a huge but, external freedom is only half the equation. I mean, what's the point of having all the time in the world if your own mind is a prison? This brings us to Naval's second essential skill, happiness, the key to internal freedom.
So Naval really throws down the gauntlet with this question. So many of us think of happiness as something that just happens to us, like a random mood or a bit of good luck. But he argues it is the single most important skill you can ever build. His point is, look, if you're smart enough to build a business or learn a complex skill, why can't you apply that same intelligence to being happy? So what's the biggest roadblock on this path? Desire. And he has this incredibly powerful way of reframing it. Desire isn't just wanting something, it's a contract you literally sign with yourself to be unhappy until you get that thing. The more of these little contracts you sign, the more you're just guaranteeing your own misery. The secret, he says, is to pick your one overwhelming desire and get really conscious about letting all the other little ones go. We're always told to go after peace of mind. But Naval says, nope, that's actually the wrong goal. What you really want is peace from mind. See, most of our suffering comes from that nonstop, judgmental chatter, that voice in our own heads. Peace isn't about trying to make that voice happy, it's about learning how to make it quiet. And look, this isn't just some abstract philosophical idea. Naval offers these simple daily habits, like getting more sunlight or just spending time in nature, that act as feedback loops. When you practice them consciously, you're not faking happiness. What you're doing is actively training your brain to default to a state of peace.
Okay, so we've got external freedom from wealth and we've got internal freedom from happiness. When you put these two together, that's when you arrive at Naval's ultimate vision, the beginning of your second life. Naval loves to share this quote from Confucius because it just perfectly captures that moment of awakening. It's the point where you stop sleepwalking through life and you start living deliberately. It's that sudden, powerful realization that, hey, this isn't a dress rehearsal. And this, right here, is the very core of his philosophy. Wealth and happiness, they aren't competing goals. They're sequential. You build wealth, not for the sports cars or the big house, but for the freedom it buys you. And then you use that freedom to do the deep, essential work of finding true peace and happiness. So we'll leave you with the question that this entire philosophy really leads up to. In a world that trains us to want everything all the time, the path to freedom actually begins with focus. Choosing that one single, all-consuming desire, well, that's not just some thought experiment. According to Naval, it's the very first step you take to start building your second life.